Okay, hi guys. I'm trying something new here because I don't have my iPad. But just really quick, I'm going to go over what we talked about on Monday and Tuesday, discussing Upton Sinclair in the jungle, um, and the Meat Inspection Act, Pure Food and Drug Act, Triangle Shirtwaist Factory, and then we'll go over the presidents if we have time in this video. If not, I'll make another video, but we'll probably fit it all in here. So I attached a copy to this Google Classroom link with an excerpt that we read in class. If you missed that, I would just briefly skim a couple paragraphs of that before watching this. It's pretty quick. And it's interesting too. The Jungle was a book by Upton Sinclair, and it is chronicling what was happening in a lot of the meatpacking factories in Chicago. He hoped to expose the cruel labor and unsanitary conditions of that industry. There was rat poop all over the meat. They put out poison to try and catch the rats, and some of the poison got onto the meat. It was just not good conditions. These workers were getting cut up, their hands cut up, the pickler people, if you read the article, it said that their fingers were basically disintegrated all to nubs because of the acid that they were dealing with too. So it was just not a good place to work. So we talked about muckrakers in a previous video, and these were people that were going in and chronicling, whether it be through newspaper articles, books like this one, or photographs, going in and trying to get justice for these workers and improve the conditions by telling the public, hey, these are the problems that we're seeing in these industries. So this is one muckraker, Upton Sinclair. And through this, we get the Meat Inspection Act, which is basically requiring all meat sold to be inspected to make sure it's safe, make sure it's properly labeled, make sure it is going through the right precautions so that there is no rat poop, right, in the final product. We also get the Pure Food and Drug Act. Basically, this is protecting the public across the board, not just the meat industry, from contaminated food and mislabeled food. You can watch this video. It's really interesting. It's in the slides. It should be attached to the Google Classroom link, but it's how it's made, bacon. It's really interesting, a really interesting video on how far we have come in the meat packing industry. The Triangle Shirtwaist Factory fire. This is another instance where we have a really tragic event, or a really tragic event that leads to a lot of policies being made to protect workers. Basically, there was a fire on the 9th or 10th story of this factory. They made shirtwaists. That is the picture right there. And there's a series of problems on why around 150 people die. One is that the fire exits weren't really properly marked. The second is that the doors going out to exit the building actually swung open. Okay, usually if you leave a room, the door is swinging out, like the GIF I have there. But in this case, it was swinging open. So they had a ton of people packed against the wall, and it was kind of almost barricading that door. Nobody could get it all the way open because there were so many people trying to get out. There was no sprinkler system. There were 2 fire escapes, but one collapsed, so they only had one. There were 4 elevators, but only one was working at the time of the fire. So there's really just no way for them to escape. So because of this event, we now have policies in place. Doors swing open to exit, and there are more sprinkler systems, more properly marked exits, and they are accessible to everybody. There's a newspaper article of the tragic event of the Shirtwaist Factory fire. At a certain point, people were just jumping out of the window to the ground below just to, have a quicker death, because they were basically trapped in there the whole time. They were waiting to die. The 16th Amendment, just glossing over this really quick. The 16th Amendment allows the government to collect income tax. So an income is how much salary, right? How much money we're making at our job. The government can tax that. The 17th Amendment established senators. We have 2 senators per state. Representatives are a different thing, right? They are based on population. 2 senators per state. And those are elected by the public. However, we do see some inequalities in voting at this time, with literacy tests and poll taxes directly targeting people of color, immigrants. Those people are restricted from voting because of these inequalities in the ability to vote. So it is not all sunshine and rainbows, right? Everyone isn't going to the polls and not having any obstacles in their way. We do see obstacles of literacy tests and poll taxes. This was just the percentage of voters in the senatorial, sorry. 2014, we see 36%. 2016, 59%. It goes down a little bit in 2018, 50%. 2020 is 66 to 72%. That is a really, really high number. I really hope it increases. I encourage you when you turn 18 to vote. It is a really cool opportunity that we get to do as American citizens, and I've done it before, and it's really fun. Though I'm a nerd, but it is really cool. So who are 2 Illinois state senators? Tammy Duckworth and Dick Durbin. A little about my friend Sarah, who interned for Senator Duckworth. That is her right here with the arrow pointing. That's my best friend from college, Sarah Kalacki. She got to intern for Senator Tammy Duckworth a year or 2 ago, before COVID. And this was just a brief statement she gave to me. Basically, she was working in their Chicago and Rock Island offices, answering phone calls from people around the state, logging their legislative opinions for Senator Duckworth and her team. She works a lot with veteran affairs because Senator Duckworth is a United States Army National Guard veteran. She actually lost, she's an amputee. So veteran affairs is really close to her heart. So that is what Sarah worked with primarily, and she recommends the job. And if you have any questions for my friend Sarah about working for a United States Senator, send them my way and I will send them her way. The 18th Amendment, we'll talk more about this in the spring. It makes the production of alcohol illegal. It's later appealed by the 21st Amendment, but this is a huge, huge problem for the country, right? A lot of people. And the people that we see behind this movement is a lot of women. And that is because a lot of men are going to these bars and they're getting drunk and they're coming home and being very violent towards their family members. So we see a lot of alcohol abuse, domestic abuse during this time. And a lot of women get behind the prohibition movement, right? Outlawing alcohol because of that, because of this domestic abuse. But we'll talk more about that in the spring. So how much money would the government lose in a year if we instituted the prohibition today? It would be around $7 billion. That is a lot of money, and that is just the government, right? We're not even talking about the different companies that really, really rely on the production of alcohol or the sale of alcohol. So I think our country would pretty much collapse if that were to happen today. So now we're going to talk about Theodore Roosevelt. He enacts this policy that he calls the Square Deal. It has 3 basic goals. They called it the 3 C's: conservation, control, and consumer. Conservation of natural resources, control of corporations, and consumer protection. The conservation of natural resources, he creates the first Forest Service. So if you've ever thought of being a park ranger, I was reading an article, like the #1 problem that park rangers face is the amount of people coming to national parks and spreading people's ashes, their family members' ashes, which is pretty interesting considering what you think of when you think of a park ranger. You don't necessarily think of that. So Teddy Roosevelt also creates the Antiquities Act, which creates a lot of historical landmarks and structures, stuff like that. And he also creates 51 bird reserves, 4 game preserves, and 150 national forests. Control of corporations, he creates this Sherman Antitrust Act, which basically outlaws restrictions on trade, breaking up those monopolies. So breaking up those monopolies, who are those guys we talked about in the previous unit in the Gilded Age, Rockefeller, Vanderbilt, right? They're controlling one industry, which is an issue. So that is during the Progressive Era, they're trying to break those up. There's a political cartoon. We see little Teddy Roosevelt over here and all these big industry guys, right? That's JP Morgan, that are bigger than him. Then he enacts the Sherman Antitrust Act. And now all of a sudden these big business guys are small and begging for mercy from Roosevelt. Consumer protection, we talked about these earlier. He enacts the Meat Inspection Act, the Pure Food and Drug Act, making sure quality production is happening in those food production places. This is another political cartoon kind of talking about the the meat production that we talked about with the jungle. See canned beef on the can here. Then up here, the beef trust scandals, excuse me. That was basically some companies had a monopoly over the beef production industry. So that was, again, breaking those up. Cholera coming out of here too, right? It was diseased, putrefied meat. They're holding their noses because it smells bad, because it's terrible. Leaving you with this quote with Teddy Roosevelt: if you could kick the person in the pants responsible for your trouble, you wouldn't sit for a month. That is saying you are responsible for your problems, especially at the end of the year, and making sure we're getting our work in on time. Don't blame the teacher. Blame yourself for not getting it done. All right, you can watch this video. I would pause and watch this video on the Panama Canal. It's not very long. It's a really good summary on how we got the Panama Canal and the events leading up to that. So make sure you pause this video now and go watch it. Okay, if you didn't pause it, that was a really awkward silence. So you're just gonna have to deal with that. I don't know. All right, William Taft. This guy was a protege of Teddy Roosevelt, meaning that Teddy Roosevelt was his mentor. He was groomed by Teddy Roosevelt to be the next president. He actually served as his vice president. And I gave him the Best Mustache Award because look at that. Look at the ends. They're just twisted up and it's a perfect mustache. Here we see some political cartoons depicting the relationship between Teddy Roosevelt and Taft. Oops, sorry. We see a Mary Had a Little Lamb with Mary being Roosevelt and the lamb being Taft. I think that one's disturbing. This one is also disturbing. A father and son. Teddy Roosevelt is the dad. The son is played by Taft. That one will haunt your dreams, probably. This one, we see the baby of my policies, okay, Roosevelt's policies being handed over to Taft, the maid, the babysitter. So William Taft, just like Roosevelt, was really into breaking up those trusts, breaking up those monopolies. And on his last day in office, he actually creates the Department of Labor as a United States government organization. There's also this rumor that William Taft got stuck in a bathtub in the White House, and there's really no evidence to refute that. Do you know how he avoided getting stuck in bathtubs? You want to guess? He took showers. It's that simple, people. But I did want to say he did have a custom bathtub. So he did know he was a bigger dude. He actually wrestled for Yale, so he was a pretty big unit. But yeah, that is refuting that myth. He's also the last president with facial hair, and I found this picture on the internet of a photoshopped picture of Taft without his mustache, and it is disturbing. Let me just do that again. Ready? Boop, boop, boop. Again. Charming, scary, charming, scary. All right, that's enough of that. All right, Woodrow Wilson. He is the last of the progressive presidents. He enacts a series of laws, including the Clayton Act, which makes it easier for, basically makes it easier for unions to strike, kind of takes them out of the Antitrust Act legislation. So they're able to strike for better wages, better working hours, all that stuff. The Keating-Owens Act basically ends child labor. So you all can thank Woodrow Wilson because instead of watching this video, you would be in a factory making who knows what. The Adamson Act basically enacts an 8-hour workday for railroad workers, making sure they have fair hours, fair working hours, which had been a problem for a really long time. And here we have a sick burn from Teddy Roosevelt. Instead of speaking softly and carrying a big stick, President Wilson spoke bombastically and carried a dish rag. Burn, got him. And if you have any study guide questions, here, I'll put myself here. If you have any study guide questions, please let me know. And if you are quarantined, which we miss you, make sure you are making that work up. And if you have questions on the study guide, send me an email. I would love, love, love to hear from you. And that is it. I will see you in the next one.